Mitski can teach us about power of authenticity and essentially not caring what people think when we're making our art and when we're making our music. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Deanna Faye. I'm an independent artist from Canada, and on this channel I like to listen to and watch interviews with other songwriters and artists and kind of give a bit of an analysis of what the artist is saying. And instead of focusing on pedals and plugins and the tech and the gear behind music, I like to look at the psychology behind the songwriting and creative process. There's no gatekeeping here. I'm just giving you something that I think can help you write better music, and the way I like to do that is through the medium of other artists. So today we're going to be talking about Mitski, and Mitski just released a new album. This land is inhospitable, and so are we. I will say that upon listening to this album for the first time, I really regretted listening to it in public. I was riding the bus home from work, had a long day, and it was my first time listening to it, like any of the tracks. And I started sobbing. I was crying in public, so it was quite the experience. So yeah, I'm not the only one that I've seen that after listening to it they just started crying, and it's quite a raw album, and this is something that I want to touch on. Something that Mitski said on a very recent, actually just came out yesterday, Genius verified lyrics meaning videos is,
this is the first record where I absolutely stopped caring what people think. Ironically, maybe that's what people are the most attracted to.
So she says that this is the first record where she completely stopped caring what people think. And yet I think it's one of her most beautiful records. I think that there is this power in just being ourselves, fully, and not caring what anyone might think in the process. And in a really, really old interview with Mitski and Eskimo having a conversation, I believe this is sometime 7 years ago, maybe 2016, but take a listen to this.
So when you play a show, do you feel like you become someone other than who you are in your everyday life?
When I play a show, I think I finally become myself. In my regular day, everyday Mitski is just not quite there. You know what I'm saying? Just when I'm on stage, I'm like, oh, cool, this is me. And then when I'm off stage, it's I'm sorry that I'm this way.
I thought that was particularly interesting. It's kind of this notion that when an artist is performing or when they're playing their music or making their music, that's who they really are. If they're being authentic, that's who they really are. But that when they stop performing and they're off stage, that they have to come back to the reality of who they are. It's hard to explain. It's who you really are, who you'd like to be, the full extent of who you are is you when you're an artist. But the reality of life and circumstances and whatever it is, it's bridging the gap between who an artist is deep inside and then who they have to be in their everyday life. It's almost like a Clark Kent thing with Superman. Yes, I have the real me that goes and does my daily work, goes to work, goes to my 9-to-5 job, whatever it is for most artists. And then you have the real me, which is the artist, or the Superman me, that, that is the real me, the depths of someone, the depths of their soul. It's hard to explain. So we hear these words being thrown around a lot, being yourself and being authentic, but what does it really, really mean to be authentic? I think it's about really digging deep and taking that time to be alone with yourself and understanding yourself. And it's not only self-awareness, but that plays a big part of it. it's kind of like being honest with yourself, because it starts there. Because I mean, I could write a song and I could make art where it paints me out to be in a certain light or other people in a certain light. But I mean, if I were to really sit down and, dig underneath the layers of society's expectations and what family expects of me and what maybe fans would expect of me or potential listeners, and if you have a record label, what your label is expecting of you and what you think people expect of you versus what people actually want. And if you try to remove all those layers, like, what is it that you actually want to say with your music, or what is it that you'd want to express? And I think for Mitski, from what I can gather, I mean, I don't know her, so I cannot actually speak for her authentic self, but for what I gather from Mitski is that the reason her newest record is most herself and more authentic, at least in her own words, she feels she finally stopped caring what people think for this music, for this new record. It's because she was expressing, her raw feelings, like raw emotions, and at least for her, that's how she expresses her authenticity. Now, that's one way to do it, and I think that we can kind of see that here in her song Francis Forever, in a session podcast from 2016, a 2-meter session podcast, which I found on the Mitski Thoughts YouTube channel. She talks a little bit about that song, so let's have a listen.
I was just very much in love, and I'm a musician. I go out into the world and perform, and I'm everywhere, and I'm out here trying to get the world's acceptance, I suppose. But when I wrote it, I was thinking none of that matters if that one person isn't watching.
So, just listening to that, I kind of got goosebumps. Like, I got chills, because she's talking about how, as musicians, as artists, it feels like we're always trying to get the world's acceptance. Whether that be fans or loved ones or record labels or, publicity. It's like we're always trying to get the acceptance from other people. But in her song, Francis Forever, she feels that none of that would matter. Even if the whole world could see her and was looking at her and liked her and loved her, none of that would matter if that one person that she loved and she wanted to be seen by that one person. If she can't be seen by that one person, then what does the acceptance of everyone else matter? It doesn't. And I think there was something very profound about what she said there. And she said it a long time ago, but it 100% is relevant today to her art. It's something that, as an artist or songwriter, as a musician, it's really difficult to do. It's really difficult to be that authentic. It's kind of like pulling teeth. Like it's sharing some kind of secret part of you that maybe you don't want to be seen. Like, you do. It's not really what you want to be seen, at least like most people. But I think that's why her music is so internationally loved, because she's able to reveal those secrets and not care what people think about it. I think that is extremely profound, and it's something that all artists and creators, and it's a life lesson in general that we can learn from. It's just the importance of just really, really, really being authentic. For music, it can come across as quite intense as a result, because these raw inner feelings and emotions and thoughts, they are not usually expressed in everyday life. Even if someone's extremely expressive and emotional, it's the kind of thing that you don't talk about. It's not like small talk. It's not like, hey, how are you? Well, here's my heart, like spilled all over the floor. And you see this with a lot of great artists, that in their music, they are able to really open up and really be authentic. And music might be dark. It might have unsavory themes as a result. And I think that some people shy away from that because they're like, well, will people really like me? Will people really like my music if I'm that brutally honest? Like, if I'm that dark, if I'm, if I say what I'm really feeling? It's a tough cookie. But I think that is the main sort of lesson that I can teach, that Mitski can teach us.
Or just confusing kind of emotion, wanting to come out. And I think what I have been trying to do is try to hone that in to kind of a laser beam and take that intensity or whatever that's inside and focus its energy when I put it out. I think it's less about just releasing for me, and it's more about squeezing it into one focal point and releasing it, if that makes sense.
I think that is an important point that she makes, because it's not just about expressing and releasing that intense emotion. And I think what she does is she takes that emotion or that confusing feeling, and by like zeroing in on it, like a laser focus, like she says, and then putting that into poetry and music, into a song. I think like that is her songwriting method right there. Like that right there is her songwriting method. That's how Mitski makes these amazing songs. That's how Mitski makes these like beautiful, heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching songs. They really, they hit our heart. Sorry, it's so cheesy, but like we really feel it. We feel her music because she has the skill of focusing in on an emotion and expressing it in such a way that it's so tangible that it hurts. If you are a songwriter out there and you're probably looking at your screen right now and you're thinking like, Deanna, I'm trying to be authentic, but it's just not working. Or like how the hell do I be that authentic? And first, if you're trying so hard, then maybe you're not being authentic. It shouldn't require that much effort. But what you can do, and it does require effort, is you can focus on really slowing down, being with yourself, doing the practice of artist routines that aren't necessarily about songwriting. They're not necessarily directly about making music, but things like journaling. I've been trying to do this every day, not necessarily successfully, but I've been trying to every day write and just write exactly what I'm thinking, like free thought, free writing, and try to write at least 3 pages a day and just get all my thoughts out there. And part of this is it kind of releases some of that tension and the confusion, and it makes your thoughts and feelings less chaotic and less confusing. So that's one step. Because if you don't really understand what it is you're thinking or feeling, it's going to be way harder to put it into song. And then this is the hard part, is then, okay, now I know what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling. But the hard part is actually feeling it, not numbing out, not dissociating, not, just staying so busy so we don't have to feel something really hard. I'm very guilty of this, because while I am good at knowing what my feelings are, I'm really bad at feeling them. So I could notice the feeling, and I could be like, oh yeah, that is grief, that is anger, that is sadness, that is jealousy. But then to actually feel it and let myself, it's something, it's a practice, it's a skill, and it's something that many of us are working on. And then part of that is not, numbing it out. So if you always listen to headphones and always have headphones on and listen to music or a podcast, this is something I do, by the way, then it might actually be less healthy than you think. Yes, it's a healthier coping mechanism than some things, but are you doing it because you want to drown out your real thoughts and feelings? Because if you were to spend a morning, let's say your commute, where you don't listen to something, where you just have, your thoughts and the sound of the world, if what you're hearing and what you're feeling is bothering you, it's upsetting you, then there's probably something that you're not truly addressing. And so this is somewhere you can start, as a place to understand your emotions and then to feel them. And then when it comes to actually writing the music, it'll be a lot easier, And some people do process their emotions. Some people do process their emotions through their music, through their songwriting, but it starts with having that emotional awareness. And it's something that I talked about before in one of the very first videos that I made about songwriting. One of the tips that I had is using feeling and understanding feeling, and Mitski does that really, really well. So yeah, these are just some thoughts that I had about Mitski's songwriting, and I hope that this helps you in your creative process. And if you've watched this whole video, please like and subscribe to this channel.